Segomotsi Agnes Setshwantsho made a brief appearance in the Mabatu Magistrates Court facing a murder charge related to the death of her 30-year-old niece, Bonolo Modise.
It started with a funeral, a cold, quiet burial nobody questioned. A middle-aged man lowered into the red soil of Limpopo, surrounded by a handful of mourners who looked more confused than heartbroken. The widow, small, calm, dressed in black, stood beside the casket without shedding a single tear. Not one. Her name was Agnes Setshwantsho Segomotsi, a woman so ordinary, so invisible, that no one suspected the truth. Death followed her like a shadow, and she was the one calling it. In the weeks that followed that funeral, life in her village continued as normal. But deep inside the offices of a major South African insurance company, a young claims investigator noticed something strange. The same widow had filed multiple claims, all tied to mysterious deaths, all happening in the same family line, all benefiting her. At first, it looked like bad luck. Then it looked like a pattern. And when investigators dug deeper, they discovered something South Africa had never seen before: a woman who turned murder into a business model. This mastermind believed she could outsmart everyone, including the law. This is the story of Agnes Setshwantsho Segomotsi, South Africa's most cold-blooded female serial killer, and how her empire of death finally collapsed. Agnes did not fit the image of a killer. She wasn't violent. She wasn't loud. She wasn't reckless. She was a church-going mother, known for borrowing money, selling cosmetics, and living from hand to mouth. But behind that mask was a different woman, calculating, patient, and hungry for wealth she felt she deserved. Her journey into murder began with debt. Agnes owed money to lenders, friends, neighbors, anyone willing to give her a few $100. Pressure was mounting, and her reputation in the community was collapsing. Then she discovered something that changed her life. Insurance policies were easy to take. Claims were even easier to file. And nobody suspected women. All she needed was a target. Agnes started small. Her first victim was a distant relative, someone she could easily manipulate. She told the family she wanted to help financially by taking out insurance policies so the person could be covered. It was a brilliant lie. Once the paperwork was complete and she was listed as the beneficiary, the countdown began. Friends later said Agnes became strangely attentive. Visits increased, calls became regular, and she monitored her victim's routine with frightening dedication. Then came the accident. A sudden, unexplained illness, a late-night collapse, a rushed funeral. Agnes collected her payout, paid off a few debts, and realized she had discovered a formula for killing without ever touching the body. To understand Agnes is to understand her system: cold, structured, and predictable. Step 1. Identify a vulnerable relative. Someone poor, someone trusting, someone who wouldn't question her intentions. Step 2. Take multiple insurance policies, not one, not two, but sometimes 10 or more, each from different companies, each listing her as the sole beneficiary. Step 3. Gain access to the victim. She offered help. She acted like family. She pretended to care. Step 4. Execute the death plan. To outsiders, the death looked natural. To investigators, it looked sudden. To Agnes, it looked like income. Step 5. Cash out and restart the cycle. Once the money came in, she moved to her next target. Agnes became a perfect storm. Cold heart, plus financial desperation, plus a loophole system. And for years, it worked. Agnes didn't choose random victims. She chose people who trusted her. 1. The sick relative. A woman struggling with health issues. Perfect cover. Agnes took multiple policies in secret, then waited for the inevitable. Investigators say her help in caring for the woman accelerated the death too. The young man starting a new life. He believed Agnes was helping him with paperwork. He didn't know she was insuring his life. Days later, he died, suddenly. 3. A child. One of the coldest moments in the case. A young boy whose life Agnes insured without the mother's knowledge. He died after eating food Agnes had provided. The family never suspected her. 4. A close friend. Even friendship meant nothing. Agnes took out policies on someone who trusted her deeply and collected the payout after a mysterious death. Every death had two things in common. No autopsy, quick funerals, and Agnes always appeared calm, almost bored. Police officers later described her as a woman with no conscience, no emotion, no hesitation. If Agnes had stopped at 2 or 3 victims, maybe she would have gotten away with it. But greed is a dangerous teacher. She started chasing bigger payouts, more policies, more victims, more money. She approached insurance companies so aggressively that one employee started recognizing her voice and noticing her pattern. When one of her latest relatives died under mysterious circumstances, she immediately filed multiple claims. And that was the tipping point. Enter Thabo M., a low-level claims investigator who changed everything. Thabo was young, meticulous, and stubborn. After reviewing Agnes's file, something felt wrong. Too many policies, too many deaths, too many claims, too few explanations. He dug deeper. He found inconsistent signatures, forged documents, and victims who didn't know they had been insured. He escalated the case. A task team was formed, police became involved, and soon a shocking discovery emerged. Agnes had filed insurance claims on people who were still alive. She was already planning their deaths. That was when investigators realized South Africa had a serial killer hiding behind paperwork. On the day the police came for her, Agnes didn't run. She didn't cry. She didn't ask why. She simply stared at them with a blank expression, as if annoyed that her routine had been interrupted. Inside her house, officers found stacks of insurance forms, lists of names, copies of IDs, handwritten notes about payout amounts, journals detailing timelines of deaths. It was the diary of a woman who planned murder the way others plan. Shopping lists. Agnes was arrested and charged with multiple counts of murder, fraud, insuring people without consent, attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder. Courtrooms filled, families cried. Investigators trembled as they read her methods aloud. Throughout the trial, Agnes showed almost no emotion. The judge called her a danger to society, a woman who sees human life as a financial opportunity. Agnes Setshwantsho Segomotsi was sentenced to a long prison term, effectively life behind bars. Behind those walls, she reportedly remains silent, unemotional, and unbothered. The woman who built a business out of death now lives in a place she cannot escape. When the investigation was finally completed, detectives opened a small brown notebook they found locked in Agnes's wardrobe. Inside were names, dozens of them. Some crossed out, those who had already died, some circled, those she had targeted next, some with payout amounts written beside them, a silent hit list, written by a woman who murdered without a weapon, without violence, without fear. One detective later said, "Agnes was the most dangerous killer I ever met, because nobody saw her coming. And somewhere in Limpopo, people still whisper her name with fear. Because in the end, Agnes wasn't just a serial killer. She was a reminder that the most terrifying monsters don't hide in the dark. They sit beside you. They smile at you. They call you family. And sometimes they take out insurance in your name."